as Eli Manning stays on his feet. It is caught by
Tyree. Welcome back to another episode of Catch the Moment. I'm your host, David Tyree. This is where you come to get the journey, the process, the pain point, delivering you to your next moment. Everybody's thriving. We're no longer surviving. And today I have a wonderful guest who, we kind of built from the same cloth. Let's just say something like that. I know you heard of that, so Raven, but we're going to upgrade this Raven on Raven Tyler. How are you today?
Hello, I'm doing great. Thank you so much for having me.
Look at that vibrant smile. Can't you feel where we go here? Great vibes only. You're truly Essex County, Montclair High School, right?
That's right. MHS 07.
It's a little local vibe right now. I know we get to a few different places, but this is local. This is to the heart. And you can see, I gotta give you a big shout to representing the church because you got, New Hope.
Yeah, New Hope Baptist Church.
In East Orange, just for clarity. I thought she was vibing with the Whitney New Hope down in Newark. That's the legendary, but you're adding legend to your own fellowship.
And fun fact, I actually, growing up, I used to go to that church before my mom converted to Buddhism. Fun fact.
Okay, so we just went from Whitney's church to Buddhism to back to New Hope.
Back to New Hope. Yes. And the pastor, the executive pastor at New Hope East Orange, her home church is New Hope.
Okay. Okay, so Bill kind of came out from under.
Right.
Came out from under the club. Okay. All right. So this is kind of like, I guess you call it like, what they call it? Like, I guess you could say this is standard operating procedure. We gotta ask you, where is the first time you saw the helmet catch? What was your thoughts? Any story you got? I know you're Montclair, so you love me.
I represent. So, fun fact, I actually went to school in Springfield, Massachusetts.
Oh, this is getting juicy.
Yeah, nice. So I was around a bunch of Patriot fans. And, they have their way about them. They can be very boastful. Keep it like that. And so they're, talking all this smack all season long. They know I'm from New Jersey, too. They know I rep the Giants.
You was rapping hard.
And came down to it. You made the catch. Of course, I was in Massachusetts.
Loving it.
Had to stand up and say, yeah, look at that. Look at that. You done made the catch.
That must have felt good. So you was right in the smack of Patriot country.
In the smack.
I love it.
Yeah.
So he was
I was drinking Brady's Kool-Aid.
Listen, I bet they was drinking a little water in Brady's Kool-Aid too. So that was college. Was that college for you?
Yes, that was college.
What school did you go to?
Western New England University.
Did you finish there?
Yes.
Oh, congratulations.
Thank you.
That's super dope. So we made some noise in the enemy's territory, had fun doing it. I'm not even going to call this. It's something I'm going to get around to, but I'm going to get straight to how I kind of roll up on you. And you won't find a more eloquent cover. This cover, you're a beautiful person in itself, the shot, but ultimately it's telling the story of some of your journey. I'm going to say, because you're a woman, you also own Equally Yoked podcast. You run this podcast platform. We're going to get into that. But you're a schoolie. I just learned a little bit about the schoolie life after seeing you are a young lady from Essex County, New Jersey, highly populated. We are a dense area, but you out here living a schoolie life. Talk to me a little bit about your thoughts, how you landed there. And, eventually we'll get into this cover story because this was just a beautiful, beautiful.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, so Essex County is expensive.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I'm a single mother.
Okay.
And I was paying $22.50 a month in rent every month since 2019 by myself, even with my daughter's father at the time, who eventually had to call it.
It
wasn't working. But where we were, it was just a really, my neighbors were very supportive and great, but the neighborhood, people would come to the neighborhood and cause issues. There were times where my daughter and I would hear gunshots outside.
Now this is Montclair.
In Montclair, which I never would have expected.
So for the locals, we know that's definitely not
It's not normal.
That's not the vision.
And it wasn't even my neighbors. It was people that would come and cause problems on the block.
Got it.
And regardless, it just wasn't something that I wanted for my daughter, especially like I envisioned, I'm in Montclair, I felt successful, I'm making a bunch of money, and I'm like, okay, I'm paying all of this and we're still not feeling comfortable, we're still not feeling safe. I have 5 bedrooms. And yeah.
In the apartment?
In the apartment.
5-bedroom apartment, Montclair, you had $2,250 by that steal.
It was definitely a steal. So I had 2 floors. Technically, they marketed it as a 2-bedroom. And upstairs, there was like a railroad style 3 additional rooms. So there were 5 rooms, 2 bathrooms, oversized kitchen, way too much space. I realized after a certain point, I would be hanging out in like 2 of the 5 rooms primarily. So
Yeah.
With my daughter.
This is something that happens to homeowners too. You know, folks hit the jackpot and they get the big crib and they live in a half house.
It's like, for what?
So is this like the beginning of, let me check, is this a financial decision? And where is the school? Like, where does the school bus come into this? I mean, like, this is number one, is really neat, it's very different. I think anyone who kind of has a little bit of understanding on Jersey in general understands that there's some unique opportunities, a special place in Montclair. And I think that we just, the diversity is, but you clearly have some diversity of thought for African American woman. That's not, you probably weren't the first person who's going to think you're going to be in a bus.
Right. And I definitely can say that I tend to think outside the box. It dawned on me scrolling and being on social media, Instagram, YouTube, and then I'd see these converted school buses. Actually, it started before that in college. There's a book called Into the Wild that has always inspired me. I would be that weird girl that, even though I was like, yeah, I'm gonna get me a mansion one day, I'm gonna live here and there, but there's always been a part of me that has been called to living off grid. And somehow the opportunity presented itself where I had a piece of, I don't know, even just a thought of being exposed to schooly life, like through Instagram and YouTube, and I see all these converted school buses, and me, I tend to be pretty eclectic, if we're gonna put it that way. And my mom is also very supportive in the way that she just allows me, even though I'm grown, like she's just very supportive and like encourages me if I have any ideas just to like see them through and everything like that. So long story short, fell into an opportunity where I was able to consider even like getting a bus to convert. I reached out to the Montclair Police Department, first things first. And like, first off, where can I park this bus in town? Come after. All right, that's an exclamation point for y'all. But yeah, I made sure to secure which lots would be parking in. And he told me, he gave me a couple of options. Then came the search process. And at that point, I thought that I was going to be converting the bus on my own. I had spent maybe 2 years researching how to convert these. I could probably pull it off.
Due diligence. You call due diligence.
Right, I did my due diligence, y'all. And turns out that in searching Facebook Marketplace, I found a couple of options that would have costed the same amount to convert on my own that were pre-converted.
Nice.
Now, there's a couple of advantages and drawbacks to getting a pre-converted bus, especially buying one from Florida and bringing it up north. Okay, insulation is a thing. Okay.
So that sounds like a disadvantage from coming from Florida to Jersey.
Yeah.
Okay.
Make sure you do your further due diligence because the bus I bought wasn't fully insulated. So I had pipes freeze when I first bought it, like through the first couple of deep freezes. But found it on Facebook Marketplace, bought an airplane ticket down to Florida.
Okay.
And literally learned how to drive it on the way home.
Ooh.
On the highway. I was shook.
So no need for an upgraded license, or we just took care of that? That's very interesting. We all roll dirty a little bit, okay? We all roll dirty, but you ain't have to do that. You sure?
No, I'm straight. So it turns out that if you remove the seats, you don't need to have a CDL. So
excellent.
Loopholes.
This is good stuff right here. Okay, all right. So now we don't want to. This is obviously super creative. Definitely, like I said, off the grid, out the box thinking, and obviously in Montclair even more so. It's like, wow, maybe out west, maybe down south, but you're right in the thick of desirable real estate in New Jersey. Let's talk about some of like the journey, because this is not something that just came squeaky clean. You talked about how in the midst of this, there was a layoff. You're thriving, but also it sounded like you have a beautiful child, also not with his father. So it sounds like all crashing around the same time. There's some challenges. What has been the keeping place, and what was the discovery about yourself through these challenges, and how you kept the course?
God, Jesus. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
And I actually even made a post when I first bought the bus that Jesus is the reason why I have this bus, because I wanted it for so long. And for it to just have fallen into my lap,
sure,
like without even really like stress or trying too hard, it had to be God. So a month after I got the bus, I was laid off.
Man, all right. So how's that feel? Let me just pause. Let me just let it. So you come into something that you believe to be a promise, a blessing, and then
it is. It is.
Come on now, declare.
Yes,
it is so.
Because He covered us.
Okay, that's
He covered us, and ain't no way. First off, that I had never driven a bus, and if you feel how literally, I had to drive back like holding the steering wheel, like every little adjustment, I could flip the entire bus. Like, keep that in mind on the highway, how fast I'm going.
Okay, let me go back on that.
Jesus took the wheel in Florida.
Ooh.
Okay?
All right.
Once I got back, I'm thinking everything is great. But I'm thinking like I'm golden. I'm like, I'm about to save all this money. I'm gonna be able to splurge. No more rent. I'm telling my landlords they could like see you later. But it turns out that it was true divine protection, because if it weren't for having this bus, I would have been evicted.
Wow.
We would have been homeless, and it would have been just a completely different story.
Now, the spite will come because you said, even with the father of your child, obviously, you're strong in the faith, transition into that, and that probably leads into something which you're talking about a lot on your podcast as well, which I look forward to, kind of getting into. What was some of the lessons learned through that season of life, right? Obviously, everybody has a vision, maybe how they're looking for their life to look like. What were some of the dark places like? Who were the people that really cemented, or, you talk about the faith, that's the center, the Christ, and we are unashamed here, and we welcome back any conversation, but for you, the Christ. Well, how did you, galvanize some of those disappointments in the midst of that season?
It really is just unexplainable. Like, just the way that we were carried through, it's like any disappointment, drawback, or anything that could have come, it just makes me realize what is really important. Okay. And it's just me and my daughter, our family, our pets, and everything, even though that I wished for this bus for a little bit and prayed for it, more importantly, and got it, even that, I feel that I'm not as attached to it as I thought I would have been when I first began this journey of seeking it out. I realized that everything is only for a season, and nothing is as important as my faith, because this bus can be snatched away, and I know that we will receive our provisions.
That's right.
This bus can be snatched away, and I know there'll be another outlet. My job was taken away, and I have actually felt more comfortable. Like, I was making 6 figures too. Like, I was making money. Yeah. And the fact that I could just lose my job and I feel like I have more money now, like, I don't have money. Just for clarity, I feel like it.
So you feel...
I feel like a millionaire.
That's excellent. It sounds like there's been, like I said, through these last few years, there's been fulfillment, right? Just a true, it sounds like, this true sense of fulfillment. In light of understanding where you were and some of the experiences that you have with your family in this transition, what are your career, i.e. business goals, how you see God unfolding things moving forward?
So I fully am focused on my podcast right now.
Okay.
And really, the future is still unfolding before my eyes.
Right.
Like I can't say there's any one specific goal that I have for my career moving forward, and I've always been that way. I've always had a foot here, a hand there, an elbow here. Like I've DJ'd, I've hosted interviews before for the Rap Fest. I have been a technical recruiter, and now I'm hosting this podcast. I'm actually in the process of trying to identify visionaries and advocates for affordable housing and people that are familiar with zoning laws and just people that are interested in thinking outside the box for affordable housing, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
And making this more attainable for other people.
Sure.
And I see myself creating a nonprofit. I really want to take this bus thing a lot further than what the schooling community has. And I know some people in the community may look at me and say, wow, she's like commercializing this or making it something that it shouldn't be, but God put it on my heart to share this and to open it up so people who may not have the means of paying thousands of dollars a month every
It's getting real. It's getting real in Jersey. People have talked about it for years. Everybody feels the brunt of it. And I think there's definitely a need for some creative thinking in relation to housing. And number one, that's what it takes. It takes a little bit of disruptive thinking. I think eventually we get to some solutions. In light of, some of these pots that you like to play in, these, and you're still, like I said, I think you're still, I'm 43, so you kind of hitting this.
That's cool. You're 43, I'm 34.
Okay, there you go. Back to back.
Right.
Flip it around.
Right.
So on the other side, what you being, I call, these are like the 30s now being able to look back at it. We almost kind of beginning to enter into your prime, understanding who you are moving forward. What would you say up to this moment is your defining moment? Because you're very secure as an individual, but you've also had success and you're also lifting off. So what to this moment is your defining moment?
Getting baptized changed my life.
And when was that, and how did it lead up to that?
It was in September. Now, I would say I got saved like 3 years ago, but I wasn't convicted fully until I got baptized this past September and completely changed my life. Then that's when I found out I would be falling into the blessing. I would be getting the bus. And then I got the bus, and as soon as I stepped foot on it, the conviction that I felt, because I used to smoke weed, I used to hoe up, and I used to go out clubbing. Like, I went to these after-hour spots in the city like 4 days a week. I was outside, and I was like,
double-minded.
Right, exactly. I was lukewarm. That's what I was.
Yeah. I'm one of these. So I'm hardcore. Right? So I grew up a whole heathen. Right? So. I grew up from East Orange, Montclair, no church background, and I encountered Christ. So I tell people, I encountered Christ before doctrine, and my life was changed.
He'll meet you where you are.
Yeah. Oh, listen, you just gotta be broken. You gotta humble yourself, right? But when I always say that, because I'm like, man, you sound like you got saved, man. You sound like you got saved a few months ago. But that's okay. That's a beautiful thing. I only say that because we're so afraid, even within the you want to call it the Christian community, to say things like they are. Like, I wasn't changed. I tell people, if you encounter Christ, if Christ is eternity, can you encounter eternity and be the same? And I understand that God loves us. He pours out, he drips his little oil on us, and sometimes we get a glimpse, we get a shiver. But I'm talking about being introduced to heaven kissing the earth. Jesus.
Right.
And it sounds like that's an encounter you had more recently.
Absolutely. And I call it out on my podcast. I'm a baby. I'm not a pastor. I'm just a girl with the Bible that can't keep her mouth shut.
Come on, man.
And it got to a point where, like, I attend, like, literally everything in my church. I'm at church, like, 4 days a week. And I was asking too many questions. Like, I'm like, I can't bombard my pastor this much. Reverend Williams, thank you. I appreciate you.
Give up the goods, Reverend.
Right.
Give up the goods,
I
Reverend.
need that word. I'm thirsty.
Hey, listen.
Like, every time I get an opportunity, it's great to be able to dive in because it's filled with so much wisdom in the word.
Yes.
And really, it's just like after changing and seeing that and realizing what I can do. Oh, that's what I meant to say. As soon as I stepped foot on this bus,
Sure.
it was weird. It was like I didn't feel comfortable drinking or smoking on it at all. Like
Really?
even
So
like
now,
stepping outside.
that's like usually, the perfect. That's true.
And it's funny because people look at me like I'm a hippie, like I'm this, I'm that. When really it's the complete opposite. I got the bus and I said, this is more of a reason for me to clean it up. I have a daughter. I can't be like caught outside the bus smoking and then like imagine I go somewhere like to drive and it was just like I felt convicted. I felt like God put me on that bus to separate me and get me in a corner, put me in that quiet spot and clean it up.
You got
Clean it up.
Come on, clean. Hush that fuss and get on the clean bus. Hush that fuss and get on the clean bus. I just love it. Number one, obviously, I think God has these unique ways of doing something that feels so exclusive for us as individuals. This is so unique, especially from a young lady from Essex County. And a lot of just kind of create a little bit of authentic space. We talk, decisions we can probably amount to like determining our destiny, right?
Are you tired of losing your bets? Our sponsor, betting.us, is here to help. With expert analysis, up-to-date odds, and insider knowledge, our team of sports betting professionals will guide you to victory. Bet smarter and win bigger with betting.us.
Share with me what you believe has been your worst decision and what you learned from it, and then share with me what you believe has been your best decision. I can imagine, I know that probably has an undertone in the faith in Christ. But share with me what has been the worst decision and maybe what you learned from it and how you see God redeeming something.
And I wish it were a decision that I could have more control over, but it really is not listening to the wisdom that was presented to me at a certain time, not believing as early as I could have, because I really could have avoided a lot of heartache, trauma, abuse, and I don't even want to say like it's a bad thing being a single mother because like I love my daughter and she's a blessing and everything, but I really went through a lot of unnecessary abuse like in that relationship, and that's why I created a whole podcast called Equally Yoked, because like I think it's very important to find, and not saying that like everyone that is a Christian isn't a sinner, because like we're all sinners, we're human. But I don't know, I just felt like I could have avoided a lot of heartache and trauma for me and my daughter had I gone about things the right way.
Sure.
And grace and mercy. They work in unison. And that's my Redeemer always. And I just feel like he picked me up out of this bottomless pit.
Sure.
And gave me joy again. I was suicidal at one point.
Yeah, talk about it. You mentioned some strong words. I think, number one, abuse looks different. There's so many different forms of abuse and they all count. Mm-hmm. So when you talk about trauma, feel the liberty to kind of just enter into whatever space of vulnerability to share something that maybe could liberate somebody else from maybe avoiding that, because I've always been, I got born again in 2004, so 24 years old. But my wife and I, we had 4.5, almost 5 years, and I wouldn't call it toxic, but I was a jerk, and I hurt her. And I never enjoyed hurting women. And I was a hurt man, and I was going to strike first. Right? So just kind of creating my own sense of transparency as a man, it was like you get hurt, you're like, that's one of the worst, you get betrayed, that's one of the worst feelings in the world. So I take full ownership of it, and that's why I was so fortunate when God came into my life. I was able to take the opportunity to become the man that could properly love her and restore the hurt. So, feel free to just, whatever space that you can to just, kind of talk about that, some of that, those painful places and how God restored and made things new for you and your daughter.
So, I was choked. So that's how I was being abused several times, even once while my daughter was 6 months. It happened in front of her and in front of her grandmother, and on the streets of New York was another time, 2 other times in front of, and people walking by in the street and just not even doing anything about it. And a lot of people in my life never knew. They didn't know. I kept it quiet and I put on a smile. Like, I've always been a very bubbly, happy person, and no one would have ever known that that's what I was dealing with until I was on the phone once and a family member overheard. So I just think it's important, even though you may not want to, if you're going through abuse, just talk to someone about it, talk to a family member about it, and just find at least just one person to help speak some sense into you, because especially when kids are involved, it got to a point where I didn't want her to come from a broken family.
Sure. And that's a real concern. That's and not to the detriment of yourself.
Right.
But this is a real consideration. It's not just like this easy
right. And a lot of people don't realize that. And it's like, oh, well, they don't understand what it's like to have a kid and you not want to be so quick and hasty just to break it off. And I was unwed, so even I can understand if I were married, maybe there's counseling and stuff, but there was no coming back, and it happened habitually. And when I had gone to court, the judge actually told me it was one of the worst cases that she's heard, which it was mind-boggling to me. But definitely let someone know if you're going through it, and don't keep it to yourself. I even went so far as to find an abuse Facebook group and share the story there. And someone told me, how could your daughter come from a broken home if you leave when she's already in a broken home? And I said, wow, that's so deep. That's so deep. And
well said.
But that's not to say that I probably have my own influences on the matter.
Sure.
I probably could have if I had more fruits of the spirit like I had, and maybe I was a little more understanding of what he was going through too.
Yeah. And
COVID is a real thing. And it really caused a lot of trauma in a lot of households, and I don't want to diminish or, make anything seem any type of way. So
No, I hear you loud and clear.
I forgive him in my heart.
Yeah, and that's a beautiful thing, and that's a liberty that as a believer, being forgiven helps us to be able to see our own selves. And like I said, when you cause harm to someone, and in any particular way, and it's not all equal. So we're not excusing who this man was for his, disgusting behavior, because it is disgusting behavior. I just don't condone it, but I can remember as a teenager being in this kind of situation. Not because I provoked it, because I was provoked.
Right.
Had one single time, as a 14-year-old kid, where my girlfriend was going crazy on me. Going crazy, hit me with a whole yardstick.
Oh, wow.
This is 14 years old, and that was after, I could withstand so much, and eventually, boom. So once, and it was just, it never felt good, never felt justified, but these are humans with passions, with different places which we're coming from. So I still feel horrible about it.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
I think there's also a piece where, women should be
I think
held accountable
they
for
have
abuse too, because that's still
I agree completely.
domestic
I
violence.
said, don't poke bears. You know, like, you know, and that's the difference between a man and a woman.
Mm-hmm.
I just don't, and I think that that's the responsibility of a real man.
Yeah.
Only a real man can exercise that kind of restraint and understand the power that he wields.
Mm-hmm.
It takes a great amount of meekness, consideration, right? And that's the really meekness. And most people don't have that apart from God. And I think there's vulnerabilities of every human that we never want to see. We never want to see the dark side of most of humans. But thank you for being so brave to just share that, because I think it's necessary, but it also leads to where you are partially today with your platform. Talk to us about Equally Yoked.
Yeah, so Equally Yoked is a podcast that I created basically to help me navigate. I created it really selfishly, if I'm being honest, because like dating as a Christian woman has.
Listen, even at this stage of my life, I have so many wonderful people, and some of them were women who were kept themselves for God. Mm-hmm. So I'm over here counseling them, leading them, loving them, serving them. I'm like, man, it's dark, it's bad out here.
It's bad out in the streets, and then it's like. At one point, I'm like, okay, God, so what does it really mean to be equally yoked? And it just has brought up so many questions of what it means, because it says like, be not unequally yoked with unbelievers.
Correct.
And what is light have with darkness? Pretty much is the gist of it. I'm not a pastor, y'all. But look it up.
Well, I'm a disciple. I got you, man.
Right, 2 Corinthians chapter 6, verse 14. But it really like leads me to question, like, okay, so someone says they're Christian, and what really prompted it is because I speak to a lot of people. I'm on online dating, and I'll have a conversation with a Christian man, and he's like, he just basically, long story short, he brings it to a dirty place in like the first or second conversation. And I'm like, okay, I thought we were on the same page here. What does it truly mean to be equally yoked? Does it mean that you're literally following every word of God? Does it mean that you just call yourself Christian, but obviously we also sin? Does it mean that you have a personal relationship with God? And also, is it like openly sinning, or is it like willingly sinning versus like, oops, I did it. Okay, like, is it like a oops type situation and then you go back and repent, or are you just willingly out here willy-nilly just sinning? So there's just like a whole spectrum, and I realize there's so many thoughts to be had, and I need to have them because I'm trying to get equally yoked.
Come on, somebody.
Okay, so I'm trying to be fruitful and multiply.
We could have a whole nother episode on this whole topic right here, but we're gonna dig into it. So, in light of what you know and who you know God to be today, because you say you are a young believer who are coming into something with a lot of questions and exploring, what has been your early discovery and what has been your early convictions?
So early discovery is actually quite interesting. I feel as though, in one of my earliest episodes, is highlighting the thin line between judgment and discernment. Okay. And one of my earliest revelations in this process is that it's a slippery slope toward judgment, and I don't want to prematurely judge people, which
I judge people all the time. I don't judge them whether they're going to heaven or hell.
Right. Then that's it.
Because there's actually two forms of judgment.
Right. You judge a tree by the fruit that it bears.
Right.
What's the other kind?
To condemn one to hell, to sentence, right? To judge and to sentence, right? We don't have final judgment.
No. And I don't want to make it seem like that's what I'm doing.
Oh, listen, man, I tell people all the time, walk like a duck, talk like a duck, it's a duck. But it's that simple. So I feel like only in the faith, especially amongst Christians, do we have this mechanism where we're afraid to draw sound conclusions. Mm-hmm. They're not even conclusive conclusions. Mm-hmm. Does that make sense? But just a sound conclusion based off of what you observe or even discern. It's kind of like, what they call it, street smarts.
Right, yeah. You're right.
Come to the faith and we just lose all sense. So, and I'm not bringing you to any conclusions, but But even for your own journey, what does the Christian have a liberty to do? Do you have a liberty to compromise? Do you have a liberty to what's up?
And that's what I'm so torn about.
Okay.
And that's why I have this podcast to open up dialogue, because I refuse. And a lot of it, I think, was based in fear too. Like, I really don't want to make another bad decision. I don't have time to make another bad decision.
Come on, somebody.
And
bad decisions will cost you time.
it will.
The GPS will reroute. You know, I think that there's a destination that we're all trying to get to. It's just like anything else. When you make a poor decision, there's a cost associated with it. That's so prudent of you to actually recognize that.
Yeah, you know, and it's just have to be mindful up front. And I will discern, and I will be judging a tree by the fruit of it. Fun fact, some of the fruit that was born was, you gotta tune in for the full story, but somebody dropped some greenery on church property. And I was like, God, you gonna tell me what kind of fruit he bears? Because he let me know early. And I feel like it was a test, because I was like, it's only been a couple months, but I ain't doing it.
So he said he dropped some greenery. Now, I get specific. My hand just went two ways when I heard greenery.
So, long story short.
All right, we speak plain.
It was Easter, right?
Uh-huh.
Easter. We're planning resurrection egg hunt for the church. And I'm like, right, Easter. And I go outside with this sign like, hey, we're having a resurrection egg hunt for the kids. Long story short, somebody comes in off the street. I ain't gonna lie, brother was kind of fine.
He's supposed to look at them.
Oh, Jesus, is that you?
Lord.
Right.
It's now it's thee. It's now the
And turns out he was like, I heard somebody need help for Easter, like for the egg hunt.
I might be lucky. Lucky.
So he had to, turns out he was available to help for like 5 minutes.
Just no time to try to swim with you.
Right. And then he had to go pick up his sister from the airport. And I was like, okay, fine, I'm going to pick up Mila so we can come back for this egg hunt. On the way to my car, there's a bag of weed in the parking lot. And I said, because I'm saying, Lord, please send me a sign if it's you or if it's, if it ain't you, we know what, look at my options.
We found the sign, huh?
Right, and it was revealed to me. So if you ask God, He will reveal the truth.
And that's basically not the kind of guy you're looking for. That's not the kind of fruit we're looking for falling off the tree.
No. So I judged that tree.
Come on.
And I said, I have this for you. You can come pick it up. I welcomed him to come back to church. And hopefully that seed someday will grow for him, but he ain't for me. Not like that.
Well, I'm super proud of you in relation to just the evolution. You have a clear line of creativity, boldness, courage.
Yeah.
But obviously, in light of this beautiful transformation, God is giving you now a standard to live by, but also a standard to uphold. And it's very clear He's giving you some dynamic favor. He set you high. So give us an idea of what we can expect. I know you alluded to a lot of your goals and aspirations moving forward. What's, if you could have your own perfect evolution out of this for the next few years, what could that look like for Raven So Fly?
That would be urbanized, basically like RV lots for people to park their buses. And this nonprofit being launched to provide buses to other single mothers. And my podcast flourishing and spaces for people to talk about love and what it means to them to be equally yoked and just spreading the gospel. Anyway,
come on now, we ain't ashamed over here. Listen, the gospel is the centerpiece of hope, of life, forgiveness. And obviously, your life is beginning to bear fruit to that. If nothing else, I think being equally and I like to close the gap on the gray area. That's me. I'm like, get the gray out so we can make definitive decisions. And we're maturing. We're not talking about moral perfection. Moral perfection was lost when you disobeyed mom at 1.5. Right? I say that all the time. we don't even have to apologize for not being perfect. That's actually the reason why I came to Christ, is I'm like miserable. I keep screwing this thing up. So salute to you for being honest with yourself, for being bold enough to share some of the challenges that through your faith you're an overcomer, and you're clearly a visionary. Because great things come out of Montclair, and we just can't help it. We just can't help it. So I just honor you. I'm super excited. Congratulations again on the cover. But there's more to come. I look forward to being a part of your narrative.
Thank you so much.
Appreciate you. Give us your platforms where we can find you, and so we can make sure we amplify everything you're doing.
Awesome. Thank you. You can find me at Raven of the Ark, RAVENOFTHATARC on Instagram. And also follow my scripture page, Equally Yoked by God. Equally Yoked by God. And you can check out the podcast on Apple Podcasts, Google, Spotify, most places you can find podcasts, Equally Yoked.
We out there. Make sure y'all stay equally yoked. Listen, you don't want to be yoked with the wrong folk. And this is not just in marriage. This is in business. I mean, like, you get yoked with the wrong folk, you all jacked up.
I like that. I'm going to get to steal that.
With the wrong folk.
Don't get yoked with the wrong folks.
Had a blast with you, Raven. Listen, everybody, thank y'all for tuning in for another episode. Y'all keep it locked. Y'all rock with us week to week. We'll be back with some more fire and get you to your next destination so you can catch your next moment.